Oh, really? Really?
Okay, well, it sounds like our recording started. So welcome to the Planning Commission of July 20th, 2021. And we have with us here from Planning Commission, all in person for the first time, I think, since we went home for COVID, Troy Slade and Ethan Allen, John McKay, Alan Donald, and Ed Bush. And I'm Jane Greiner. We have here from the city, Austin Roy, the planner, and joining us online is Jed Muhlstein, the city engineer, and Marla Fox is recording the meeting. And we would like to have an opening prayer by Alan McDonald and then the Pledge of Allegiance by Ed Bush.
Dear Father in heaven, we ask for your blessing that we might conduct this meeting with patience, wisdom, and good judgment as we conduct the business of the people of Alpine. And in Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we have public comment now. If anyone has anything that is not on the agenda. Did you receive any public comment this week?
We did not.
I did not as well. So we will just move on from public comment then straight into our action items. And the first action item we have is the final plat of the Fort Creek Landing subdivision, formerly known as Cororum Court.
Cororum Court. Okay, so just one quick reminder before we introduce this, everybody turn on your microphones. I just got a text and they're having a hard time hearing some people. So if you don't have a green light, turn it on. Okay, so yes, Fort Creek Landing. So Fort Creek Landing, here we go, is a 3-lot subdivision. This is something that we've looked at recently. So it's been to Planning Commission for both concept and preliminary approval. This is the final version of the plat. They're no longer calling it Cororum Court. They're calling it Fort Creek Landing now. And with that change, they've also proposed a change to the name of the street here. So this cul-de-sac, actually interesting, this, I thought my packet showed differently, but it's, oh, it does, if you zoom in. So this is an extension of Whitby Woodlands Drive, but at the very end here, just that would be the name of the cul-de-sac. So we've reviewed this just for the purpose of the records. I'll just remind you that it's 3 lots on 8.44 acres. Lots range in size from 1.57 acres to 4.37 acres. This is located in the CR 20,000 zone. They haven't really changed any, as far as zoning goes, they haven't really changed anything since the last time you guys looked at this. So at preliminary, we looked at the lot size, the width of the lots. We looked at, you know, the use, and as far as all the zoning aspects are concerned, this still meets our ordinance as it did at preliminary. And as far as zoning is concerned, we would recommend approval of these items. And so I know that Jed does have some more to say on this. So
yeah, thanks, Austin. Typically at final, it's pretty low key for the engineering. Engineering is very heavy at preliminary and very light at final. So typically at final, we're just more or less making sure red lines from preliminary have been taken care of and just kind of dotting I's and crossing T's. So with this development at preliminary, we talked about how the developer will need to provide easements for the offsite water lines. The requirement, or we said that we needed that at final application. I know the developer is still working on getting those. We have the documents. He's just working on coordinating, getting them signed with the property owner. But from what we've heard, the property owner is willing and they just need to get those signed. We're going to try to have those for city council next week. Another red line was that they just needed to provide details on the retaining walls on, I can't remember the lot number, but it's in the southern lot there.
Lot one.
Lot one, yeah, there's a retention pond on lot one that had a retaining wall on it. They did give us a design and details for that wall, so we are good to go in that regard. We also talked about at preliminary, the form of water rights that they would be providing. At the time, they were thinking that they were going to request cash in lieu of water rights. That actually requires city council approval. But since then, discussions have been had and the developer thinks that they can just acquire the correct Alpine Irrigation Company shares to be able to provide or to meet the water policy. So they shouldn't have to request that at this time. I guess they will come back if the sales or acquiring of those shares fails. Other than that, there's a few other minor red lines which they have taken care of. So I have no other comments from the engineering department. I think we have just our standard requirements that they'll need to meet, which at final are typically, we always like to mention, they need to meet the water policy. They need to give us a construction cost estimate so we can create some bonds. They need to provide roadway preservation funds. And then I had already mentioned, I'm just going down the list of the sample motion to approve here. And then we already talked about the offsite utility easement, which they need to provide. So yeah,
So,
that's all
Jed,
I've got on this one.
Jed, so you mentioned that there still is a red line item then that's not done. You have here that all red line from preliminary review have been corrected. I thought you mentioned one thing in there. Now I can't remember which it was that wasn't quite done yet.
That's the easement. We just need those offsite utility easement signed.
Oh, okay.
Without
So,
that offsite utility easement, I mean, the development really doesn't work. So,
okay. So it's
Yeah.
already listed. It's already listed there.
yep, it's listed.
Okay. And then I was also just curious, is it normal for a cul-de-sac at the end of a road to have a different name?
Yeah, good question.
Because the road goes, it's connected to a road and then the name changes as you enter the
So
cul-de-sac.
most cul-de-sacs are called like a circle or.
Right, but
whatever,
if they're at
so
the
it
end
wouldn't
of a
be
street.
Whippy Woodlands Drive, or
Uh-huh,
does that make sense?
right. I just didn't know if from the intersection on down would normally be like Whitby Woodlands
Yeah,
Circle, and it would be the lane leading to it, including the circle. So at what point does this change? I just wonder how that will be for addresses and things like that. If it's normal to have a road that goes all the way, and then as you enter the circle has a different name. It's not a turn or anything.
mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it would be handled just like any other cul-de-sac. So when it goes into the cul-de-sac, they become circle addresses, right? And so the
Yes.
same principle would apply.
Okay.
So
I just don't
so
see
for-
where it enters the cul-de-sac here.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, from one who lives up in the Box Elder neighborhood, who has to put up with Box Elder Drive, Box Elder Trail, Box Elder Cellar Circle, and the confusion that makes to the
Yeah.
host people as they're trying
Or
to
any kind of a
figure out.
delivery to your
I have sympathy for the people who'll be at the end of this cul-de-sac who may never get their packages because may never be recognized that the road changes its name,
The
just
road
like at some
changes.
midpoint in
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, we have Pfeifferhorn Drive and a Pfeifferhorn Circle, but Pfeifferhorn Circle is a unique discrete section of road that you turn into
Right.
off of the drive. I don't think it's appropriate.
Yeah, this just seems strange that you just are on a road and then all of a sudden
Yeah,
the road name
well,
changes.
We do have our ordinance, which is section 4.07. Let's see, what is it? 050.
Okay,
Um,
tell us what
we'll
that
just pull it
says.
up. You don't know.
Sorry, I forgot that line.
So yeah, so we are looking at this. Yeah. Sign standards, street names. Okay, so it says streets shall have the name of the existing street, which are in alignment. Shall have the names of existing streets which are in alignment. So, I mean, reading that, you could argue that yes, it should be
Mhm.
Whitby Woodlands.
Circle. I mean, the whole thing. could be a
Circle?
Circle.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what it seems to be. Although I understand people already live along this, right? There are people from this one intersection, there
There
are people already
is
along.
one home,
Yeah.
but they are on an
But
east-west road.
interestingly, going along with that ordinance,
And
all
they're-
street names must be recommended by the planning commission for approval by the city council.
Well,
Correct.
I've never seen that done. No one ever asked me the name. No, I guess it's just part of the, plat, so
Right,
when we
yeah.
review it,
Recommend
we
it
should
for-
review the street
Yeah,
names, which is
I
what we're
mean, we
doing.
should point it out, be more specific on it. We have not done that in the past. We haven't
Yeah.
done-
We have it.
careful
Personally, I
eye
think
on
this is going to be very confusing. I understand that probably the developer maybe likes the name that goes along with their development there, but I think this is gonna cause a problem. I think it would be much better if from the intersection there, where the other road tees into it, to the right is either Whitby Woodland Circle, or what was the name of the circle that they're proposing?
Fort Creek Landing.
Fort Creek Landing Circle? No, it's called Fort Creek Circle, wasn't it?
Was it Fort Creek Circle? Is that
So-
what?
Just Fort Creek Landing.
I mean, that's what it's on the plat. It shows Fort Creek Landing. What
That's the name, that's the name of the road, Fort Creek Landing Circle?
of the circle.
Uh-huh,
The name of the
that's the
circle is
name.
Fort Creek
Creek
Landing
Landing.
Circle.
just Fort Creek Landing.
Fort Creek Landing.
Oh, Fort Creek.
That's what's showing on
Preliminary.
here. Let me pull it back up.
Oh, so it doesn't have circle on it or anything? Yeah,
We'll zoom in on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's this cul-de-sac right over here,
having,
and Fort Creek Landing is what they have up.
Yeah,
labeled
you know,
as.
I just look at this and years from now, when somebody's in there is gonna say, who is the crazy person?
that
that
approved
ch-
this.
That changed the name right in the
Um,
middle of the street.
Can you scroll up
right?
just a little bit? Can you move the
'Cause I would
circle
think
to,
that
right,
is it.
right,
Right there?
yeah, just a little bit higher there. And so. And are you saying that from here, right, from 600 north, if you turn right, are any of there is one home along here already?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so right where it says Whitby Woodlands PRD Plat E,
Yes.
right here,
Yes,
I think there's a home right there, and Jed can correct me if. I'm
There
wrong.
is a home right there and they have a 600 north address. The lot
Oh.
on the west side of the road from there has a Whitby Woodlands Drive address.
and has it been built yet?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, because I would recommend that if you turn right off 600 north, it is like Fort Creek Circle. And if you turn left, you have Whitby Woodlands Drive or something like that, or.
And I think that's essentially what they're proposing. On the plans, it showed to change the street sign down there at that intersection,
Oh.
showing Whitby Woodlands Drive going south and Fort Creek
Okay.
Landing going north.
Oh, okay. Well, if that's the proposal, I'm much better with that. From what I saw, I thought you were gonna have Whitby Woodlands Drive, and then as you enter the circle, it was going to change
No, they'd have to change it at that
at the
intersection.
intersection.
At the T,
Okay.
it would be
Okay.
the natural.
But doesn't that
um,
violate the ordinance?
So Austin met with the city
It's a
attorney
good
today on
time.
this. I was actually in a different meeting, but Austin, maybe you can tell him what the attorney.
Yeah, so I actually asked Craig Hall, the city attorney, about this. If this was a through street, let's just say it wasn't a cul-de-sac, if it
Mhm.
was a through street or connected to another street to the north, another intersection up there. In that situation, in his opinion, then the road has to be, has to have the
Just the
same name
same.
because it's
Mhm.
essentially, it's the same road. It's still a north-south connecting road that's
Okay.
connecting point A to point B. But in speaking with him, in his opinion, a cul-de-sac is kind of an area because it's an offshoot. It's not connecting to anything. It's a
Mhm.
separate branch. It branches off from that intersection into its own little thing.
Okay.
In that situation, he felt that you could name it a different name.
That
in
could be the
situation.
terminating point of Whitby
Mhm.
Woodlands
So-
Drive.
So going south from 600 North, the street is called Whitby Woodlands Drive also?
Yes.
Yes.
But so this north part won't be now. So that's what we're
Okay.
saying is this will not be, it will just be it will be the cul-de-sac. I would recommend court or circle added to it. It
Yeah, I was
seems
gonna-
like that's what people typically see to say I'm going into a dead end.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that question myself over.
Unless-
Landing. as
Yeah, is
the,
landing used as a cul-de-sac? Typically, does that say dead end to anyone? To me, it doesn't, but.
Well, it's kind of like, the sports teams that want to be like the Heat.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it's landing, which I'm not quite sure why that would be a street designation.
Would all sections of both these named roads have the same west coordinate address?
They have the same west coordinate address. Jed,
I think you're meaning, well, on the lots themselves, we're talking north and south, that stays the same.
Right.
Whitby Woodlands Drive and Fort Creek Landing, if you had to assign an actual number to it, east or west, that yes, it would stay the same.
So,
Well, is there?
yes. Sorry, did you say
Um,
something?
Yeah, from a building department's perspective, if it's a circle, I would want it named a circle.
Okay. Or court is, I know we have Wayne Court, Quincy Court, courts and circles, either one
Yeah.
seem to be used, so.
Is there any real reason other than, I don't know, perhaps just developer preference that it's not just Whitby Woodlands Court or Circle?
It's
Developer?
developer preference. They're the ones who are really
Just-
not liking the name Whitby Woodlands Drive.
It's kind of a mouthful. I can't say it tonight.
Well, I think
I-
it's much worse than Fort Creek Landing.
Well, or,
Circle.
or just
Court.
Fort, I think Fort Creek Court is okay, or Fort Creek Circle
It's just odd that a street really
Mhm.
continues right up to a cul-de-sac,
with a
but
different name.
it
Could be Woodland
has a
Circle,
different.
Whitby Circle, something.
yeah.
The
So can we make a recommendation that a different name I don't really per se want to be the one to choose the name. But what I would say is I think that we need to have the designation of circle or court in the name.
yeah, I mean, that could be one of your conditions of your recommendation. So we have the 4 bullet points if you felt that it should include circle or court.
Yeah.
I
We
mean,
can
normally,
make that a condition.
I wouldn't think that the fire department weighs in on this, but in this
Safe-
particular
public safety.
situation, I can see it being a problem for emergency services.
Mhm.
Being confusing on where they're headed.
Yeah, no, I agree. How do you guys feel about, saying that we think it ought to have circle or court in it and maybe check with the fire or the safety? Do they have, I know there's certain things, like, for example, I wish someone would have taken some thought when I lived on Eastview Drive. So Eastview Drive goes here and here around. So it went 341 on Eastview Drive and then 347. Well, I was 344 Eastview Drive and I was down 2 corners and around, and so it looked like my home didn't exist. And Gretel Doxy got lots of pizza and packages and all kinds of stuff because hers was like just the closest number. So, I mean, these seem kind of trivial, but it's actually, a concern. I think it's a real hassle for the people if the streets aren't named right and make sure that they're numbered right, so.
I had the situation where I am
I would
on
be
1463 Box Elder Drive,
Uh-huh,
and 3 lots down, the road changed its name because the drive took a turn up the hill,
uh-huh.
and there was a 1463 Box Elder Trail.
Oh, my goodness.
And I can't
See,
tell
yeah,
you
things
the,
like that.
right,
it's-
the
Yeah, it's a
confusion that
hassle.
came from that was immense, you
Well,
know,
I'll tell-
right?
So I'll tell you, for 20 years, I've lived on Riverview Drive. The
uh-huh.
next street over is River Drive.
Oh,
And so
yeah, it's
I've
just
known
so
my neighbors for 20
confusing.
years, and for 20 years,
We've
we just
exchanged
we
mail.
exchanged mail.
Right, right.
That's exactly what, we
So-
have a relationship with everybody who gets our mail that has the address close
So, I
by,
mean,
so.
these are things that happen.
They are, and there's no
Yeah.
reason to have them happen
Yeah.
really without just.
Yeah, I mean, it builds community.
Yeah, so,
You know,
okay, well,
It seems like we could just make.
I think
the
we could make a
recommendation.
recommendation there that this,
Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah, I think
that this
so.
gets cleaned up and I think the developer knows what we're talking about. And he's here,
Hey, Jed, I
so.
did have a question. What's the height of that retaining wall that we're talking about?
It's 4 feet or less.
Oh, okay, so it's a pretty low retaining wall then.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Any other discussion points? Any other points of discussion for anybody?
It says in our notes that we're going to hold a public hearing. Is that?
It does?
That is incorrect. If you're
Okay.
looking at the agenda,
Yeah,
that is a typo.
you're right.
All right, okay, just wanted to make
Oh, yeah.
sure.
I was going off the agenda, so thank you for
Yeah.
catching little things like
All
that.
right.
Okay, so I think we're ready for a motion. Now, is this, we are recommending,
Mhm.
Yes, this is a recommendation
Always
only
I'd
tonight.
like to just verify that. Okay. Anybody would like to make a recommendation? Or a motion for a recommendation?
Okay, I'll take a stab at it. We'll see if I can do it.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so I move to recommend the approval of the proposed final plans with the following conditions. Prior to recording, the developer meets the water policy. He provides a construction of cost estimates, provides roadway preservation funds, and provides signed off-site utility easement documents. And we also recommend that the name of the street be reviewed by city council, in that it could be quite confusing as the name changes for a short piece of street.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second by Alan McDonald. Discussion on the motion.
Did we want to actually say it should include court or circle on it?
Yeah, that's what I was.
I think we should.
Should
Is
we?
it okay if
Yeah.
you add to that?
So we,
that
so we
they
amend
review
the
the-
motion to say that the final name should include circle or court.
Mhm. Is that acceptable, Alan?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we
I second
have,
My second.
you second. Okay, so we have a motion. It's been amended. Marla, is that clear what we added to that?
Yes, and is this for the cul-de-sac name, not the street, right?
Right, this is
Right.
for the cul-de-sac name, which should go from 600 North Street, that intersection, all the way to the end of the cul-de-sac. That is the cul-de-sac, that full area is the cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
Okay,
So are you guys saying that you still want to keep it to be the landing name, but just add court or circle
No.
on the end?
we're asking them to review the name, recommending, and we could add, but he's basically saying, review the name
Add circle.
and
Yeah,
add circle or court to it,
Or
as
court.
well as consider using Whitby Woodlands in the name.
Yeah.
What should we, why don't we, is it okay if we make, I can't make a recommendation.
Let me to amend that as well.
Let's talk about it for a
Yeah,
minute.
let's,
Yeah, right.
Let's, yeah.
So my concern is that the ordinance says that we are supposed to recommend a name,
right,
and we're not recommending a name.
No,
And the way council's poised, it's gonna come back to us.
yeah, that's
So
probably
let's be specific.
okay. It's just different because we haven't done that before, but we obviously should have been doing it. I'm looking at the names and adding recommendations. So what, are we okay to discuss this as part of the amending the motion, aren't we? We don't have to strike our motion and start over, do we, or? do we?
Well,
At this point, maybe we should.
at this
Okay.
point, someone should make a new
Okay,
motion.
Yeah, let's make a new
Okay,
motion.
so
and redo it.
we can discuss and make a new motion then. So
Yeah.
we want to discuss before we make the new motion though.
Yeah.
Okay, so discussion of what,
So personally, like, if I were gonna make a recommendation, I
Mhm.
mean, whether the developer likes the name Whitby Woodlands Drive
Mhm,
or not, that's the existing street name.
mhm.
And connected right into it for this cul-de-sac. So, I mean, subjective likes or dislikes aside,
Mhm.
I would recommend that the cul-de-sac be called for clarification purposes, eliminate any confusion for the post office, for delivery, for people seeking an address, for emergency vehicles, whatever,
Mhm.
that it be named Whitby Woodlands Circle or Whitby Woodlands Court. Here would be my
Okay.
recommendation.
I agree.
I agree also.
That's what
I
we
agree,
should
yes, right.
Any comments? I know it's not-
You're welcome to, but do state your name and address and go
Right.
ahead and make comments. We'll,
I'm just Brian Hanson, the developer, so.
You're not just Brian.
you are the
The
only,
Brian, right.
the one and only.
Well, there's like 15 of us here in Alpine, so, I don't know what my address is right now. I'm 431 East Bertha Court, but we're moving in Three Falls right now. So, yeah, with the name, so typically I understand what you're saying, but there's lots of times where street names change. What's interesting is that you actually brought up, I actually own the lot that's at 1463.
I know you are. I know
Oh,
you are.
really?
It's no
That's what's
longer
so funny.
1463 by South Monroe, and I thank you for
Yeah,
that.
so Jeff called me, he's like, hey, can we change this? Sure.
Right.
That's funny.
I stopped
But-
getting his mail.
But what's crazy though is that with that, it's actually more confusing because it is actually all the same names. So I actually
Yeah, but-
see the complete opposite way of that. When you take it back to a cross intersection, it's easier to change the name. It's no different than when you go to 600 North here or whatever. They find it, no problem. It's actually a little bit easier when it's its own distinct address versus when it's not. So what we've done is basically the only one we had was there was the one lot that was not built on, which is on the west side of the road here. The other lot has a 600 North address. So we've basically been working with that homeowner and said, hey, here's kind of what we're looking at doing. Changing it from the intersection up and we've gotten their approval on that.
So Brian, let me just
saying-
ask you a question.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking at the plat here, so obviously, like I see lot 1, 2, and 3. So
Yes.
lot 1
Uh-huh.
will have an address of something under your proposal, Fort Creek Landing.
Correct.
What is the address? I assume that
The one
coming
directly
south
south of
on
that.
the west side of
Mhm.
Whitby Woodlands Drive, there must either be a lot
A
or
lot.
or an existing home.
Correct. That will also.
What
be
is the
Fort
address?
Creek.
What's the address of that home, which would
Yeah.
be right next to,
Correct.
for all
That'll
intents
also
and
be the
purposes,
Fort
it'd be right
Creek
next to
Landing
your,
as well.
Yeah.
your lot number 1.
So Fort
Correct,
Creek
that'd be Fort
Landing,
Creek Landing as well.
up to the
So
intersection of
basically-
600 North.
Exactly. And the reason why the home where it says Whitby Woodlands
Mhm.
Plat E, and I mean, that's kind of maybe it. I mean, none of us can pronounce the name right now. That, I feel the name change and comments should have been made when that was approved, because it's hard to say, hard to write, hard to, it's a lot. So, but that one right where it says Whitby Woodlands Plat E,
Mhm.
that lot, like I said, he faces 600 North, so he has a 600 North
Mhm.
address.
Right.
So the only lot it affects is just the one directly west of that, south of us, and they will have that Fort Creek Landing. And it'll basically just be from that.
Mhm.
Okay, so let me ask this question then. Austin, if you could just scroll up a little bit. Just take that,
Mhm.
so, yeah, okay, so the lot there that's gonna be just south of lot 1,
Mhm.
then there's probably another home and lot just south of the little green
Mhm.
squiggle you made.
Mhm.
What's the address and street name of that home that will be
So that's a
basically right
Whitby,
continuing on that same street?
Whitby Woodlands
Woodlands
Drive.
Drive.
Okay, so you're gonna have a home with an address. Let's just say that's an odd side of the street, right? So let's just say that going down there would be 315 Whitby Woodlands.
Mhm.
Then that's hypothetical,
right,
right?
yeah,
So then
no.
going north, are we gonna have 317 Fort Landing
Mhm.
and then 319 Fort Landing?
That's
Correct.
exactly
So you
what
have
it
two
is.
homes right next to each other then.
Now,
Both
it
fa-
looks like
both-
that lot crosses
Mhm.
600 North.
So this one, yeah, exactly. So it crosses, this was one that we talked with Jed about, and Jed was saying, correct me if I'm wrong, Jed, but they could take either one if
Yeah,
they
they could
wanted, right?
keep, well,
could
if they put
choose.
their address, if they put their driveway on the one side, it would be one and the other side would be another.
Yeah, right now on county records, that lot is 609 North Whitby Woodlands Drive, but then you're crossing an open
The
space.
intersection.
Yeah. I honestly, I just don't think it's that big a deal. It's right at the intersection. I
Uh-huh.
mean, they're gonna be found. Then the lot across the street on the east has a 600 North address.
Right,
So-
their driveway comes off that.
Yeah,
It comes
well,
off
actually,
both sides, it looks
yeah, it
like.
comes up both sides on that one. But if when that 609 gets built, they want to change their address to a 590 something address, so
They could.
I mean, it's not a big deal. They could change it. I just don't see this being a big deal. I mean, that lot that's highlighted right there is 609. And if we look in the packet for lot 1, they are 655 north. So as far as the north-south numbers go, they are still climbing chronologically like they should. But you're right, the street name changes. But again, at that intersection, they will be changing the street sign there to show which ways the streets are named.
There's plenty of subdivisions that you have more than one cul-de-sac. So it's not like you have, in this cul-de-sac or in
Sure,
this
it could have
subdivision,
had 3
you have
cul-de-sacs
one
off of
circle,
it.
court, whatever. You can't name them all the same names. And it's never stopped the post office or fire department from getting.
No, it's
Yeah, I know, I
because it looks
understand.
like
I-
a continuation of a
Yeah,
road
and
is
it
kind of where we're
jogs,
coming
it kind
from.
of jogs and you can see it
Yeah.
dead ends pretty.
Like the-
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, let's not duplicate what we did with the Box Elder neighborhood.
Right,
Which was, just change the last thing and keep all the names.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the problem with Box Elder is Box Elder Drive, Box
Box Elder Trail, Box Elder
this,
Circle, Box Elder
that
Way,
yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
and they're all bunched
Right.
together.
It's true.
Right?
Yeah. Okay,
Why
Thanks.
not choose a street name rather than landing, circle, court? What
And
was
we
your
could add
thinking?
circle or court to
You know.
that. There, I believe there's a Fort Creek circle.
Drive.
Big circle over here.
is there?
somewhere.
There's a-
Will, is that
I've heard
yours?
Fort Creek before.
There is, yeah, there is a Fort Creek Drive in the city already.
Yeah,
So
Well, maybe
that
we
was
should
kind
change
of.
yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right. Obviously, this is a recommendation. So I don't know, I could, I'm more concerned about just adding the circular court just so that it's an obvious dead end when somebody turns. But
So I'm
you guys
just,
need to make motion. Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
just looking on Google Maps here, just double checking street names. There is a Fort Circle and there is a Fort Creek Drive. So if they were gonna drop the landing to make it the least confusing, they should do like Fort Creek Court, something like that.
Mhm.
Probably, I wouldn't do Circle because of the Fort Circle that's already in
Mhm.
town.
Be confusing.
Or we could just go with
Or just
Fort
keep
Creek
it-
Landing Circle
Yeah.
or something and then, just keep it that way. People have a long address, but,
Or keep it would be
That- I
Woodland
mean-
Circle.
the development is called Fort Creek Landing.
Yeah, well, yeah. I guess it sounds like a more
Brian, I
attractive
don't
name
know
for
what you have
marketing.
against the Whitby family. It's just, it's sad. We need to heal those wounds, those rifts.
Right,
He
right.
hated writing W's in elementary school. That's what it is. He doesn't like doing W.
Yeah. They're driving down here right now.
Okay, do we want to modify the recommendation
Oh,
or
gosh.
leave it as it stands? Marlo, will you
don't we have
read
to-
that last
Well,
point?
I think John's right. I think if you read the ordinance, it says that we should recommend the name,
Okay,
right?
all right, so let's get a new motion on the table then.
So that one, we need to, don't we have to say
No,
that one
that
didn't vote?
stays, that stays.
Stays
You
on
make a
it.
new motion and if that approves, it automatically dies.
Okay.
If the next motion doesn't pass, then it reverts back to your motion. It's like stacking.
Okay.
So we just stack another layer on and if we like the top of the stack, the bottom dies.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So would someone like to make a new motion?
Well, okay, I'm not really sure where we landed is more or less a consensus.
Okay.
Did we,
if we
we
were-
land on just?
if we were to put it to a
leaving
vote right now,
developer's
I would-
Preference?
I would not support a name change at all, except maybe a court.
Mhm. So just let them have their name and then add consider or add court to it.
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, I didn't choose it,
You know.
but I think it needs to have court added
I think,
onto it.
I can understand Brian's point in that,
Mhm.
the majority of this road, and I mean, it's not a lot of lots, but the
Mhm.
lots that will be in there will be in the Fort Creek Landing subdivision.
Mhm.
Of 3 lots.
Yeah,
The 3 lots,
We're not
well,
talking a big
We're not a
development
big
here.
subdivision.
right, versus the half lot that we have outside of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Well,
it's
Woodland
not
Landing
unusual
has-
that we
has
name
quite a few
the
lots.
streets after
It
the
does.
subdivisions,
Yeah,
you know,
it
right?
does, yeah.
Well, if we're just doing the name, Fort Creek Landing Circle, Fort Creek
That's a-
Landing
that's
Court,
a
it's just a
mouthful.
mouthful.
It
Yeah,
is.
I would almost personally just,
Yeah.
I get the reasons
Yeah.
there, you just leave it.
I agree.
Personally.
That's too long.
I would like to see what the street sign looks like.
Stop it. Marla had,
Right. You might have to have
14
two.
font.
We have a regulation on maximum size of signs.
Right.
I think
Right.
Marla had
Exceeded.
concerns though of
Right.
not including circle or court. Marla,
Well, that's because I thought you were just gonna leave it at Whitby Woodland Circle. I
oh,
didn't
okay,
think that if you're keeping it at
Fort
the
Creek
Fort Creek
Landing,
Landing, then it's too long. So the doctor that lives on 600,
uh-huh,
his wife was adamant. She turned that house kitty corner
uh-huh,
because she was adamant that she didn't want a Whitby Woodlands Drive address because it was too long. And
okay,
she did not want to have to tell that or write it on her mail every time. And I said, I think that you guys are going to regret that because no one will be able to find your home. They're going to think that you live up on Patterson's 600.
right.
And it's been a nightmare for them.
Yeah.
The husband came in and said, you're right, it's been a nightmare.
Yeah.
So
I could see
maybe they'll
that.
want to change their address when all this.
Maybe they
goes
could
through.
change to Fort Creek Landing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's not any shorter, but,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, so if you're
Well,
gonna
do you
keep,
have any appetite for shortening it?
Yeah, we can do Fort Creek Court.
Could we do
And that
Fort
way,
Creek
yeah.
Court?
The
Okay.
landing's done.
Okay, let's recommend Fort Creek Court. That's just,
A little short.
not that I can make any recommendations.
So,
That was
Jen,
one.
did we have a Fort Creek Court?
We had a Fort
Circle.
Circle. There's a Fort
Circle,
Circle and
And then
a
we had
Fort
Fort
Creek Drive.
We don't have a Fort.
We don't have a Fort Creek Court.
Say that 10 times.
It's almost as bad as Whitby Woodlands. Fort Creek.
Yes. Right, yeah, we're gonna get ourselves into trouble.
It's only one F word, Fort Creek Court, FCC, that's where they live. They live at the FCC.
Brian, you were good with that.
Right.
You're good.
Man, do we have fun here.
All
don't
right.
we?
I'll go ahead and make
I
a
think these
motion.
guys had something to drink for dinner.
Are we?
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's go for a motion.
okay.
Let's go.
I move to recommend approval of the proposed final plans with the following conditions. That prior to recording, the developer meets the water policy, provides a construction cost estimate, provides roadway preservation funds, and provides signed off-site utility easement documents. We would also recommend that the street name be changed to Fort Creek Court.
We have a
I'll second that.
motion and a second by Ed Bush.
Right.
Any discussion on that motion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that passes unanimously. All right,
All right.
and we'll move. No, actually, I think,
He wants to
you know,
change his name too.
Yeah, right,
I'm not
yeah.
kidding you, that's what
Yeah.
it's for.
that's so funny. That's
Right,
funny.
right. If I was Will, I'd want to change my name.
Well, I
Hey, you
think,
can change your name, but your reputation's gonna follow you.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you can run, but you can't hide, Will.
yeah. So, I think, it's annoying to go through some of those things, and sometimes it does feel like maybe we're splitting hairs, but I do think that's important. I really do. I think street names matter.
I
So,
think so too.
and based on the fact that every one of us can give a bad
I
experience.
know, right.
Okay, so let's move to the action item B, which is the final plat of Alpine Layton subdivision, formerly Whitby Woodlands Plat 1.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Flat I.
I, thank you.
Whitby, so this. is-
Okay,
Okay,
so-
I'm glad they changed it from Whitby Woodlands, because
Yes.
we would have had another long discussion. on it.
I know.
Well, we might change the road.
Well, Brian, it's what we should ask for.
Yeah.
Hang
All
on, Ed, there's more to
There'll be
come.
more to come. Thank
Let's
you,
go
thank
ahead and
you. All
introduce
right.
this one then.
Okay, let me go ahead and just say, first of all, on this agenda, there is a typo here as well as in the previous item. There is no public hearing on this
Right.
tonight. That's a typo. Okay, so moving on, this is the Alpine Layton subdivision, Plat A. This is well, let me pull it up here. So it's 5 lots on 9.7 acres. The smallest lot is 0.94 acres and the largest lot being 4.76 acres. Like the previous subdivision that we just reviewed, this is also in the CR 20,000 zone. It does, you know, we've looked, planning, the zoning department has reviewed this, and it does meet all of the zoning requirements, including lot width, lot area, the use, as well as meets our general plan, providing a connection, a street connection from the north to the south, which was part of our plan. And like the other plat there, I guess there is a proposed name change for this street. So the plat that's in your packet is Whitby Woodlands Drive, but they want to name it. What was the name?
You remember the name?
What's the name, Jed?
For you if you want.
Oh my gosh.
That's a good question.
Fort Creek Court.
Or-
Is that the same road we're talking about?
Yeah.
This is
Well, I'm not.
Layton Lane. No, I don't know.
No, it had something to do with the history of the area, and I can't remember what it was now. But in this situation, I'm not sure that, based on our ordinance, that it really matters what they're hoping to change it to.
Yeah,
This
and
one.
again, I'll pull up that ordinance again.
Well, show that map.
Oh.
Show the road map.
Okay.
Here we go. I'd love to see. Jason.
Yeah, let's go to the,
But it's right in the middle of the street.
you'll see
Yeah,
what happens here.
yeah.
okay, so this,
That's
let me
not
just
gonna
turn off
work.
the aerial for a second, so it'd be a little bit cleaner. Okay, so you can see this is Whitby Woodlands Drive. So if we're heading south from the Fort Creek Landing, we
Mhm.
follow down, we come down here to this intersection. At this intersection, a road
Deerfield
continues down
Drive.
to 200 north. That's Deerfield Drive.
Right.
But as you can see, then it proceeds to go west. And so
Eh.
as it is right
Oh.
now, or as it's shown on the
Yeah.
plat, that would be Whitby Woodlands Drive. But they're proposing to rename this section of road. So starting from here, would it be
Uh-huh.
from this intersection?
Well, you can't right to-
I guess. it'd
For
be from there.
Deerfield is where they
But
wanted from
They're
Deerfield.
proposing to rename this, you know, they feel like this is kind of a cutoff right here at this point.
Uh-huh.
And so
It's gonna go straight through and connect. It's not a cul-de-sac. It's going straight
this
through.
will be a connector. So this would be a
Yeah.
4-way intersection down here on the south
So
at 200
yeah.
north and
Based
400
on the
west.
ordinance, that does seem like that would not fit because it's not a cul-de-sac. It's a continuation of the same road.
Mhm.
So maybe everybody should get together and try to change the name of the road. People who already live there probably wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Any other, did you want to say any more about it, Austin? Were you finished?
That's all I have from a zoning aspect, but
Okay.
I know Jed has more to say.
Jed, okay, go ahead, Jed, and then we'll discuss it.
Okay, so on this one, as Austin mentioned, this is a revised preliminary / final application. So in other words, this came through concept and preliminary 15 years ago with the Whitby Woodlands
Right.
development. Originally, there was 14 or maybe 15 lots on this section. I can't remember the exact number, but now they're proposing only 4 or 5.
5.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Which
it was
that
15.
which I'm sure people like that, less density rather than more.
Mhm.
So typically at final, like I said in the previous agenda item, I don't have a lot to say, but in this one, I do have a couple things because this is a revised preliminary. And so let me just run through a couple things here. As far as frontage improvements go, they are showing curb, gutter, and sidewalk along all of their newly proposed frontage, which includes all the way up 400 West to where their property line ends, which will be great because we'll be able to connect sidewalk that exists on 400 West. We'll be able to connect that sidewalk down to 200 North. So that will actually be a great improvement for kids getting to school and whatnot. An interesting one for this development is they are now creating a four-way intersection at 200 North Westfield and 400 West. Back in 2011, that intersection was operating as a three-way stop intersection.
Mhm.
And at the time, there was some city councilmen or citizens who didn't like the three-way stop. And so they were proposing to take out the stop signs at the bottom of that hill. Well, they did a traffic study at that intersection. I need to get this program you're using to circle things, Austin. I like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, so they were proposing to get rid of those stop signs. So they did a traffic study. The traffic study came back and said that as the intersection was currently operating, it did not warrant a three-way intersection, but it did say when that connection was made that it would warrant a four-way intersection. And so the traffic study actually recommended just to leave it as a three-way so it wouldn't confuse people when a four-way stop had to be put back in, but the city council voted to take that out. And so right now with this proposal and this development, you'll notice if you scroll through the construction drawings, they are following the traffic study's advice, and they are putting it back to a four-way, or they will be putting it to a four-way intersection. And you can see the striping there for crosswalks and whatnot. So that is the proposal, that is the recommendation from the traffic study, and that would also be the recommendation from the engineering as well, because
I think that'll be way better.
Yeah, Jed, just a question on that though. Well, didn't the traffic study assume that there was going to be 15 lots in that area rather than the 5?
it's not necessarily, well, it is necessarily the number of lots, but it's also the connection of the entire development, not just this one parcel of land.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're right.
But either way, it would have to be a four-way because of the traffic on 200 North.
I noticed this has a designation of Whitby Woodlands Drive.
It is
Yeah.
all the way.
They actually do show Whitby Woodlands Drive all throughout
That's
their
what's recorded.
proposal. But they had been talking to us about trying to change that if possible. So anyways, that is that subject which we needed to bring up. Also, Austin, on sheet 5 or page 105 of the PDF, if you could go to that. Over here on the west side of the development, you can see the grading from the roadway. Our code does not allow grading beyond 50 feet from the right-of-way to construct roads without an exception being granted. And so the developer is showing where that 50-foot mark lies. And as you can see, they only need to take it about 8 to 10 more feet further to be able to create that cut to install their sidewalk, which they're proposing, which we need. In order to not have that last 8 to 10 feet of cut going beyond the 50-foot mark, they would have to install a retaining wall. In this instance, I don't think it is worth the money or the future maintenance as far as the city public works is concerned to put a retaining wall in to save that last 8 to 10 feet of cut on that hillside. And so they are requesting an exception to the 50-foot grading rule. Engineering is recommending that that exception be granted. The planning commission will need to also recommend, and city council will have to approve that exception.
Austin, will you, is this what we're talking about, right? That area right there? Or where is this cut we're talking about? I lost track of when you first.
It's the cut coming off of 400 West.
Oh,
it's that darker shaded area. Nope, that's the detention basin. Go.
Oh,
it's
that one. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Off 400 West. Oh, right.
There's this, those dark areas.
So you can see this is the grading that they will have to do on that hillside in order to install the sidewalk. So that portion of the hillside is going to be disturbed and then reseeded and revegetated when they're done. But you can see they have a dimension shown there showing 50 feet.
Okay, so the 50 feet is this line that's going through here. Okay, I see it now.
Yes.
I'm
And
sorry, it's just very hard to visualize the way
it's-
we're looking at it.
It's
So
a
they're
pretty,
extending it past about 8 feet past the 50 feet to be able to grade it properly to do the sidewalk.
yes,
So we're talking about that little section right there.
yes,
I just figured out I could touch this thing. That's what we're talking about, that right there, right?
yes,
Hey, look
exactly.
at that. I feel powerful now.
Oh, you did.
I did that. You just touch, these are touch screen, by the way.
So we are recommending that
Yes.
an exception be granted for that little section right there.
Yeah,
Um,
my screen. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Other
What
than that, it's, I mean, nothing that hasn't already been reviewed. Really, so we're just down to kind of the standard things which were on the last subdivision. They need to meet the water policy, provide the roadway preservation funds, a cost estimate. There are a couple minor red lines on their plat and plans to correct, but nothing significant enough to talk about here.
Okay, so this is ready for discussion.
What's the size of lot one?
That's the 4.5 acre one.
4.76.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
And Will, I think this is actually a good question for Will. Did I not hear that Tim Layton was going to propose some CCNRs to make it to where his neighbors could not ever subdivide those lots?
Yep, the CCNRs will be written by the attorney right now, and that's number one, that the lots cannot be re-subdivided. Even though the ordinance allows them to, we don't want them to.
Right.
So
Now,
that's
will
an
that be part
FYI.
of, since this is already recorded,
No, this hasn't been recorded.
okay,
It will be recorded at the time we record the plat.
okay. I just wasn't sure if this was because of the Whitby Woodlands. I was thinking, are we modifying
We did it in
something?
phases, and this is just a very
So this
last
is just
phase.
the last phase, so it hasn't been recorded. Okay, thank you. All right, that's good to know, and lucky neighborhood there that they get that, in my opinion. More discussion? What page does this start on in the packet? I accidentally closed out.
It's page 1. If you want to go to the plat, it's page 100.
100?
Well, that'll get you to the report, but the
That's
plat
okay,
itself
just-
is on
So
101.
Will,
Wherever I'm at.
Will, you're the developer
Yes.
in here? So do you see any problems? I mean, we've had this rash where we've approved these plats and they have a building area and then we have people coming in always requesting exceptions or extensions to the building areas.
Yeah, and
that are
these,
there.
We meet them all, but the only lot that has any question would be lot one.
Right.
And he's putting his home right down by the road anyway. And that's the owner, the owner is gonna build in this project.
All right.
What about lot 5?
5 is good, it still meets the ordinance.
Still has a buildable area that has
The
room?
whole lot's buildable.
Okay, all right. I wasn't
These
sure
are,
with the
these
shading.
are, it should be noted, these are large lots. So this is the 20,000
Right,
square foot zone, and the smallest lot in here is an acre, basically.
okay,
So
all right.
they're big lots for the zone.
So no problems with buildable areas for
No.
CBO.
Yeah, should have asked that on the previous one too, because
Mhm.
they're in
I
a,
think we looked at
Yeah,
that
that's
though, the previous time, but I could be.
well, I
wrong.
know, but I mean, so then we get somebody coming back in and wanting to build a bigger house than
Yeah.
what the building area is, and so then they have to get an exception, and we gotta go
Yeah.
through, are they backing to open space? and-
Yeah.
And here, right? So I think, it's a valid question as we, especially as Jed has pointed out, as we get further into developing Alpine, but there'll be more challenging lots to build on because, all the easy flat ones have
Yeah.
been taken. Right? So we'll have more hillsides and things. So that's a good question to ask people is to say, do they really expect to get, that without having to come back and ask a house on the lots and the buildable areas are
The one you just
designated.
gave is right next door to this.
Pardon?
The one you gave exception to the building area is just right
Mhm.
above.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's because of the size of the lot, that they had what was a 3rd acre?
Yeah, it was a small lot.
Well,
It was a small lot. It
PRD.
wasn't a large lot.
And so that's why we went away from what we did, because we thought, you know what, let's double the frontages, give them plenty of frontage, give them the space, and then we're not dealing with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to point this out, this is not a PRD, so they're not dedicating any open space. They're not sacrificing and then shrinking their lots down to dedicate that open space. And so
I
we don't
take it
have-
that
we don't have that
the
issue.
owner has lot one, I take it.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's got a personal interest in this besides money.
Yeah, the CCNRs will show.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, otherwise, you know, somebody would have more lots on here. All right. Are we ready for a motion? Do you guys, can you see what page the sample motion is on to look and see if there's any,
Do we need to make a recommendation on the road?
Right.
as part of the
Yes.
motion? Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, because they're requesting permission. If they could
Change.
change it, we just need to probably state that the road, is that part of this petition? I cannot see
It does not
that.
have it listed on the
So-
motion, but we should make it.
Yeah, so,
We were contacting neighbors and everything on the road.
okay, so let's just go ahead and state that even though it's not listed here. Okay,
So we would love to change the name, but nobody wants to write, honestly, the bottom line is nobody wants to write.
Whitby Woodland Estates.
So,
It's just-
so Will, do you think you could convince everybody on Whitby Woodlands Drive to change the whole street name?
We don't think you can beyond Deerfield.
Okay,
The new ones,
yeah.
they're all for it.
Because that's a pain for people who already
But the ones
have
that are
everything
already
registered.
established, they don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I wish we could, at least we changed it on the way up. And I'd be shocked by Whitby Woodlands because I developed it for him to name it that, so. Oh, boy.
Right, so.
I'm not going there.
Right. Is there, I can understand, I would not necessarily like to have that name either. To have to write it all out in here, but will there be any designation that this is a different development or something, stone or something?
I don't think it
Here.
needs to. That's often off the street, you'll have different sections of
No, I was
developers.
just saying that, I'd be
don't want
almost
it.
more amenable to have the road change its name.
If there was a
at that-
separate
If there was something
designation.
that kind of separated it from the,
Yeah.
as you were crossing over, that you had a
Yeah.
different road.
But I think
rather
it
than-
goes against the ordinance, so,
Yeah,
Rather
Yeah,
than
'cause-
just,
yeah,
I don't think that works.
yeah,
is what it is.
Because
Yep.
what we have
We
is right
exist.
next to it,
exactly.
4 lots later, roadside.
Yeah,
Then we have what we live.
yeah,
Then we have this new one just now.
Yeah.
Fort Creek Landing. So
Yeah.
You have 3 right there within. So we'll try not to.
okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay, I guess I can try again.
Go for
All
it.
right. I motion that we recommend approval of the proposed Alpine subdivision plat A with the following condition: an exception be granted for the grading beyond the 50-foot clear zone. And then prior to recording, the developer will meet the water policy, provide escrow funds for the roadway preservation code, provide a cost estimate for development, and address the red lines on the plat plans. And then as far as the street name goes, we recommend that the name be retained as Whitby Woodland Lane. Drive, Whitby Woodland Drive.
Okay, motion by Ethan, a second by John. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion? Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that motion passes. And we'll move on to an actual public hearing,
Hey,
not a typo.
can I make one quick comment?
Yes.
Sure.
There is a typo on the plat they submitted saying Whitby Woodland Drive. I think
Oh.
it's Whitby Woodlands with an S.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we need to add to the motion that's corrected, or can that just be done?
I think that.
It's probably just, well, I would make sure the minutes reflect the S,
Okay,
because that is one of my red lines for the plat.
okay, so when you say the minutes reflect the S, we just make that comment in the minutes of the
I think
meeting?
he's just saying put the S.
It just records it as.
Okay.
So Marla will add the
Okay.
S
I
to it.
think Ethan's intent for the
Okay.
motion was just to keep the same name.
Okay,
Name as it
All right.
currently is instituted.
so Marla will take care of that for us then.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thanks. Okay, let's move to the public hearing on the stormwater detention and retention basins. And who's going to introduce that?
I'll go ahead and take this one.
Okay.
Okay, so this is ordinance 2021-15. If some of you may remember that we had an ordinance 2021-15 that already came to Planning Commission. It was the storm water pond ordinance. So this is the same ordinance. We're now it's coming back. It never got adopted by the city council. And they wanted to table it, rework some of the language. So instead of calling it a stormwater pond, we're now changing the language to stormwater detention or retention basin. And so that's what you're looking at here. In addition to that, we've actually kind of moved. We were looking at where it was located, previously proposed to be located, and we thought it would be better located in a different section. So it's not in the same section as it was previously. So each of these, we've inserted language into each zone of the city. So we have our TR 10,000 zone, our business commercial zone, the CR 20,000, CR 40,000, and then we have the CE 5 and the CE 50 zones. So each zone would have language that essentially says that each lot shall have an area outside of the basin that is equal to the minimum of the zone. So for example, in the 20,000 zone, you'd have to have at least 20,000 square feet outside of a retention or detention basin.
And we just did this last time.
Yeah, so this is, this should be jogging your memory.
Yeah.
So it's almost the same thing. We're just kind of retweaked it a little bit.
Okay.
And we're just hoping to get another recommendation to send this back to the city council.
And what was it the city council wanted changed? They just wanted the name changed to
So
the
we
detention?
changed the wording, storm water pond
Okay.
easement.
Right.
We used to have
And now
floodplain
it's-
areas
Right,
and
right. So we
stormwater
just
ponds.
changed the.
So now it's called a
the name here.
stormwater detention or retention
Okay.
basin.
What's the difference between the word detention and the word retention?
So one, and Jed can correct me if
Can
I
we?
say
I
something
have
wrong
got
here,
both
but a
those.
retention basin is it's designed to hold the water.
Mhm.
I thought that
Whereas
was detention designed to hold Ed.
Detention
When he was acting up.
Misbehaved.
to detain
Elementary
Ed.
Actually, Ellen said it perfect. The detention
Oh.
just holds it for a while. It lets it go. The retention keeps it.
Yep,
Okay. So detention just holds it till they're out of trouble and then lets it go, and detention keeps it forever.
Correct.
Retention keeps it forever.
Yep.
Detention keeps it
one has a
temporarily.
drainage.
Well, now we know the punishments
Right,
and can,
I'm glad there's no references to the.
okay. And then do we need to say anything about moving this to a different section of the code, or are we okay just?
You can
with
just
the-
say, we propose that it be recommended as, or that we recommend that it be approved as proposed.
Okay. Okay, any questions on that from anyone? This is something that we've just discussed already. We loved the idea of requiring the minimum square footage outside in addition to the area of the detention or retention pond basin. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, let's go for a motion. We're gonna scroll down to your recommended.
let me get
since
to
we're-
that page.
I know, I'm having trouble.
Right, so
When we
I don't have a
get some of
copy of
these
it
that are
anymore,
big,
so-
I lose my
Okay.
place and I'm like, am I on page 150 or page 250, by the time I go through the engineering things, so.
Jane, did you already have the public hearing on this?
Oh, thank you.
Oh, gee.
Let's open the public hearing. We will now hold a public hearing on ordinance 2021-15 storm water detention and retention basins. Would anyone like to make comment during this public hearing portion of the
Yeah,
meeting?
for those people
Okay.
who are in the audience right now.
All right, and just for
Perhaps you, Mr.
formality.
Whitby?
Yeah.
Did you want to make a-
I just want you to know that we don't have to meet it because we're done
I
before you pass this. as a-
Think he should be in detention for talking at the back of the room.
Yeah, we actually, when Will was talking, he needed to.
Oh, that's would have been retention.
Retention would be better.
Stated.
It really does, yeah. Okay, so did you ever receive any comments? And we should look on YouTube for formality to make sure that there's no one who is making a public
We've
comment.
actually disabled the comments on YouTube.
Oh, have you? So
So
people
you're
have to
unable
come
to
in.
comment on there.
Okay,
just
well,
have to
thank you.
come in
It's-
now.
That's important for me to know.
Hmm.
All right, and no one submitted anything.
No.
Okay, so then we can close the public hearing portion of that. Thank you, Marla, for your reminder. Now let's go into a motion.
I'll make a motion. I move to recommend that ordinance 2021-15 be adopted as proposed.
Okay, we have a motion by Ed Bush. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Ethan Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so that passes unanimously. And now we'll go into communications. Does anyone have anything for communications? I have one item for Alpine Days, the family dinner. They've requested that the planning commission, as well as the city council members, help cook
I
the
got a
family
text on
dinner.
that.
Did you get that?
Yeah, I got a text on
Okay,
that.
I wasn't sure
Yeah.
if she was sending it to everyone or just I was supposed, is everyone okay if we
I
say?
just volunteered you.
Oh, thank you, thank
We all let. we all
I will
know
let
that
each
would
of you,
represent the
yeah,
planning
I will let each of you respond then.
Is that
And
Saturday night on?
this is
Monday night.
Monday
Monday night?
night,
Yeah.
Oh,
the
that's fine.
9th,
Yeah.
August 9th, and you and a spouse or partner, if you want, and your families are welcome, and they will also have the youth council there helping, so you should not be stuck behind the grill the entire time. But they would just like
Yeah,
to.
Anne Marie Gordon.
That's right. Is that council member's
That's Greg-
wife,
Greg
Greg
Gordon's
Gordon's
wife,
wife?
yeah.
Okay, that's what I wondered.
I think so.
That was the only communication I had. Anything
Yeah,
else about
August.
Alpine Days that we need to be aware of, or? We're not going to have, our next meeting is August. It's like, anyway, we only have one meeting in July and one meeting in August.
17th.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
the 17th. So, anyway, any other communication?
I do have a question.
Mhm.
So have you guys seen the big, huge building? I kind of talked briefly with Austin about it. When you're coming into town on 4800, right? And you turn on Healy, you go east.
Mhm.
Have you seen that huge, massive building that they're building up there? It's a barn, I guess.
No.
Mm-mm.
And so
You've
what,
got to go see
what-
that.
what
It
do we-
is huge. And it, he's built it up. Like it probably stands, I'm guessing 12 feet. He built the ground up like 12 feet and then he's
Yeah.
building
He
another.
brought
How
in a
tall is
lot
that
of fill.
structure?
and this is
This
a
is the-
secondary building? This is a barn?
Wayne Patterson's riding arena
Oh,
that he's building.
okay.
And
Is
it's
it
blocking
part of a
views,
subdivision?
All those houses and.
Is it part of a subdivision? Is it on a subdivision lot? Is this on open
This is
property?
not in a recorded subdivision, so
So it's,
west, there is a recorded subdivision that Wayne, that he platted and developed a few years ago.
so what kind of,
Doesn't this result,
Yeah, what kind of restrictions
City
go along
council
this?
has had this discussion, and I know the mayor is sensitive to it, that our ordinance for height is not from the natural grade, but from the now, kind of regraded area, then you
The
can
new
build up.
regraded,
So
yeah.
you
Yeah.
can build up this very large,
You gotta see it.
fill area, and then you build up
and
from
we haven't,
that on the
we
height.
haven't changed anything in the ordinance yet on that. We discussed it.
No, the way our ordinance is written right now, yeah, it's measured from the finished grade.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Finished grade is
thank you.
only restricted by, if you can retain it, you can build it up. So
Yeah.
our retaining wall ordinance would be the only thing that would restrict how high you could build a lot up.
How far into development is it?
They've got like
Uh,
steel frames and stuff, or they just gotta put the shell.
So
on it and
if,
stuff, but it's-
if people
is
feel
going
like
up
it's a
Healy?
nuisance or
Yeah.
a block, is there any type of, if we start getting complaints about it, or if even now, or the complaints, is there any type of,
At this point, it meets our ordinance, so.
Yeah.
Even if you
know,
change
unless
something,
he's
it's already
changed-
started.
Unless he's changed things from the plans and he's
Mhm.
decided to stray from the plans and build something different.
Mhm.
Um,
So has anyone talked to him about complaints that have come in? Is that?
No, not that I'm aware of. We'd have to run that by our code enforcement, but.
So is someone planning to do
I'm not
that?
aware that we've reached out to him. I don't know, but I'd have to double check.
I mean,
So-
to a certain degree.
Just a
even if
question.
People maybe people complain if he's doing it to the city ordinances, there's,
Yeah,
Well, you can,
you know, right, there's nothing.
yeah.
I was just gonna say, if he's building it to city ordinance, the code enforcement officer can't do anything.
Right. That's why I'm just asking, is there any, is there anything that if people complain, is there anything to be
There's
done?
nothing
or
that can be done.
nothing? So, okay, so then it's just a moot point other than just a point of interest to
So-
everyone and another
I
point
mean-
of why we were trying to change that. Unless someone wants to
So,
go talk to
Yeah,
him.
the only thing that could be done is, you know, the city council or the mayor could propose that we change our ordinance so that something like that doesn't get built in the future.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Is
Yeah.
anything that we did would be a future state anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for letting us know.
And so his retaining walls, I mean, you can do that with rocks. You can just build a big retaining wall with rocks. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, I mean, we do have a retaining wall ordinance, which he would have to meet. So
Yeah.
we have a height restriction on how tall your retaining wall can be. And stuff like
And then it
that.
has to step back. so
But as
many
long as
feet,
he
you know, just like that.
meets those regulations,
Mhm,
in theory, he could build up his land.
mhm. And has
Yeah.
then.
And
Cause
he
I
has
mean,
done that.
I'm just thinking we gotta take a look at what we can do in the future, cause that thing is, I mean,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
gotta drive by and. look.
I've noticed this on the hillside lots too, where before you'd have like at Bald Mountain or something,
mhm.
you'd have above the road, you'd have the building, and then people would build below and
Mhm.
grade off. But
Mhm.
now, you know, what they could do is bring in fill, flatten that out,
Mhm, yeah,
right? And then build up from there, right? Rather than following the natural grade,
mhm.
because it's the finished grade that they measure the height from.
Right, not the natural,
Right.
so. Okay, well, those are good things to,
So maybe we should recommend or take a look at it
Mhm.
ourselves in a discussion, or take a look at it and recommend to the
Mhm.
city council that maybe
do
the
you want to
ordinance
bring,
does
do
need to
you
be
want to
changed.
bring the ordinance that states the grade of the land to us to look at?
You know,
I can email you all a copy.
right.
And
link
I'm email
to
it,
that
but I'm just
ordinance.
saying, why don't we put it as just a point of discussion for a meeting? We don't have to make a motion, or anything, but could you
just want it
educate
to be
us
a
on,
Discussion item on.
yes, a discussion item, right?
Maybe on the next meeting.
Rather than
Okay.
us looking at it individually with no
We can-
insight,
we
that
can
something that
definitely
you
make a
could
discussion item.
bring to us and you guys could, help us
So-
understand it to make sure that we're understanding it correctly and look at what it allows and what it doesn't allow. And then we can discuss how,
So maybe the retaining wall ordinance and the finished grade.
I think we
ordinance.
recently reviewed the retaining wall ordinance. I don't think we need to look at that. We just made changes to that.
Those would probably be the two that really regulate this though, so.
Okay, well, we can take a look at it at the same time. We've looked at it a couple times, but let's, if you think it plays into this, then go ahead, because the retaining wall may be not necessary until they change the grade, and then suddenly you need a retaining wall. So, okay. Any other communication? Okay. And now we need the approval of the planning commission minutes. And someone else will have to do it, but Sylvia is not here. So, anyone want to make a motion there?
Move that we approve the minutes from the June 15th, 2021 planning commission meeting as written.
Okay, motion by John, second by Alan. All those in favor? Aye. And it passes. And now we need a motion to adjourn by Alan McDonald,
I'll second that.
second by Ed Bush. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. I know, feels a little weird to have a motion, but hey, whatever, follow the rules. I'm gonna be a rule follower.
Hey, I was just gonna mention you, august members of our planning commission who are throwing your hat in the ring. Kudos to you.
Yeah.
And